Hello and welcome to another episode of Daily Draft Logs. This is episode 8. We're reviewing a draft submitted to us by Twitch user FoughtFoosInWW2. Thank you so much for submitting. Really looking forward to checking out this draft. This is a Kaldheim Traditional Draft, and the deck went 3-0. So let's check out what FoughtFoos was doing and how they got that sweet trophy result. We're looking at a kind of a weak opening pack here. Our rare Search for Glory, 2 and a white. Search your library for a snow permanent card, a legendary card, saga card, and put it into your hand. And then you gain 1 life for each snow spent to cast a spell. Generally, these effects are not worth it in limited unless you've got like a really super powerful bomb. In which case, maybe you pick this up late in the draft to search that out. We're talking about a card where when you cast it, wins the game almost every time. That's the kind of card you want to be searching for with Search for Glory. So unless you've got something like that, I don't think you want to be picking this card and putting it in your deck, and certainly not picking it first. So aside from that, the cards in contention here, Rune of Flight, Spectral Steel, believe it or not, I'm kind of into this card. I really like it in aggressive white-black or white-red decks where you've got the Battlefield Raptor, the 1-mana 1/2 flying first strike. Throw this on there, and you've got a threat that your opponent needs to answer really soon, and then you'll get a little bit of value out of it later, especially because it can get back another aura or an equipment. And equipment has turned out to be actually pretty sweet in this set, so I'm not saying I would first pick Spectral Steel, but I do like it. Rune of Flight, of course, kind of goes in a similar deck, although if you're white aggro, you probably have a good amount of creatures with flying already. But I think, like, on balance, if you're looking for an aura to put on your creatures, especially, pick one, pack one, and you don't know what, archetype you're going to be in yet, one that draws you a card right off the bat and gives flying, which is extremely good in this set and generally extremely good in limited, I think is the way to go. So I really like this pick. The uncommon red-blue sack land here, Surtland Frostpire. I don't think you want to be taking these lands unless you know for sure that you're in that color pair, because they're very demanding mana-wise. And then we've just kind of got a pack full of commons that aren't very good, which is pretty thematic for Kaldheim. The commons are generally not very good. I will point out that Raven Wings has been a really sweet one. This is 2 mana for the equipment. Equips for 2. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has flying and is a bird. Again, just flying is really good. Games do tend to stall out. Equipment is good in general. There's a lot of creatures that you want to lift up that have boast abilities or other things like that. So, or they're just big, stick this on like a giant green creature and just go to town. So I have liked it a lot. I don't think I'd be first picking it here, but I do like it. And of course you've got Snow-Covered Mountain. I think if this was Snow-Covered Forest or Snow-Covered Island, we'd have a bit more of a discussion here. I think it'd feel a bit closer. Green and blue seem to be the colors that want the snowlands the most. But yeah, I really like this first pick. It's a tough pack. I think you just take the Rune. It keeps you open. It's a cheap card. It's going to always go into your deck if you're playing blue. And you can kind of just sort of file this one away and almost treat pick 2 as though it were pick 1 and don't get too attached to this particular card. So we pick Rune of Flight. Let's move on to pick 2. All right. So a bit of a more interesting pack here, but again, like not super strong. We've got Basalt Ravager, which is looking to me like the best card in this pack. Doesn't really require much support, but if you can get it to do 2 or 3 damage, then you're really going for it. And that's not too hard to do, especially in blue-red, where you've got access to a couple of really good changeling creatures, notably Mistwalker. And blue-red does want to play giants. So if you've got one other giant and or one other changeling, it's not too hard to make this do 2 or 3. And this does damage to the player as well if you want. And I've definitely ended some games even just by doing 1 damage to somebody with this thing. So I really like Basalt Ravager here, especially with Rune of Flight to start a path towards red-blue, which I think is one of the best archetypes that doesn't really require any rares to be good. There's a lot of good commons. Blizzard Brawl, Frost Augur, not really looking at these cards. Blizzard Brawl is just, a prey upon unless you've got a lot of snow, so I'd be looking to wheel this after having picked up a bunch of snow lands or like really good snow payoffs. Frost Augur, similarly so. Unless you're heavy snow, this card is not really going to do much. And even then, it's if half of your deck is snow, you're only 50-50 to hit with this thing. So, and that's a lot. Have half your deck be snow. So, definitely not a card you want to take early. Rest of these commons are all pretty replaceable. Goldvein Pick is new hotness right now. I'm not taking it here over Basalt Ravager, especially having started with Rune of Flight, but I imagine there are some people out there who would. So let's see what FoughtFoos took here. Basalt Ravager, yeah, makes sense to me. I really like that pick. Pick 3. So another kind of tricky pack here. Nothing really jumping off the page. This rare is not very good. Having triple snow is not easy to do, so I don't think you're taking this unless you're heavy snow. It adds colorless, which is kind of a big cost. Format that does not care about adding colorless mana. This is a risk putting this in your deck, because you're going to draw it at times when you really need your colored source, or you keep a 2-lander and 2 islands in your blue-red deck, and you really need to draw a mountain, and you draw this. It's like, ooh. So, this is not a card that you can put in your deck unless you're heavy snow. And even then, 4/3 isn't that amazing. There's a lot of 3/2 creatures in the format. This doesn't have flying. It doesn't have any kind of evasion. It's got vigilance. Great. I guess you can tap it for mana after you've attacked with it. But I'm not a huge fan of this card, so I would not be taking it here. Frost Augur, for the same reasons as before, we're not taking that. 3 Seasons, pretty slow. Not super effective. Again, need to be heavy snow. So the cards I'm looking at here are Bergstrider as a giant. That's actually quite solid. If you happen to have a couple snow sources in your deck, this is going to do some work for you. And if you don't, it's a 5-mana 4/4 with a relevant creature type that, maybe opens up an attack for you, which I like quite a bit. So I think the pick's Bergstrider over Kinseekers, which is technically a giant, but a little bit weaker of a card. 4-mana 2/4, not super exciting. But there's also Shimmerdrift Veil, so this is pretty close between Bergstrider and Veil for me. I really like having a card like Veil that's going to make the deck every time, no matter what colors. If we get cut out of blue and red, we're still going to get to play this. It's going to fix our mana. This is the land that comes into play tapped, and you choose a color, and it makes that color for the rest of the game. So, yeah, this is pretty close between Strider and Veil. I think I would lean towards taking the land. That's just sort of how I like to prioritize things. If there's a good fixing land, one especially as open as this, I think we take it here, and we're gonna see some 5-drops later in the game or later in the draft that we can put in our deck. You're never hurting for 5s, but sometimes you really wish that you had a land, especially one that produces snow mana and fixes for you. So I think I'm taking the Veil here. And FoughtFoos agrees. Love it. All right. Next pick. We've got, again, like nothing really jumping off the page. I've liked Inga quite a bit. Scry 3 seems to matter a lot, especially in the late game. If you're casting this on curve, then you're going to make sure you're hitting your land drops or putting lands away if you don't need them. So that's always good. But late in the game, like being able to put, 2 or whatever 3 spells on top, or putting 2 or 3 lands on the bottom, is just enormous card advantage. And the draw 3 can happen. You trade 2 creatures off in combat and chump with this, you're drawing 3 cards. So it can make attacks pretty weird for your opponent. And you could even line this up to trade against their Breakneck Berserker or whatever, and then instant speed Demon Bolt something before damage. Then 3 things have died. You draw 3 cards, so it's actually pretty easy to get it to happen. I think I like it here as the pick. It's not a giant, but there's just really nothing else that's pulling me in any other direction. Pilfering Hawk and Priest requiring snow are not cards that we want to take early. There's no snow land in the pack. These green cards are all pretty bad, and these red cards are all pretty bad. So, Rootless U is cool, but I wouldn't really want to take this until I have the 6/6 that gains 4 life. I can't remember the name at the moment. The worm. I'd want the worm first before I take this. So I think I'm on Inga here. Interesting. Okay, so FoughtFoos takes Rootless U. 5 mana, 5/4. When it dies, search for a creature with toughness 6 or greater. Put it into your hand. Again, like really powerful with the worm. But I think at this point in the draft, I'm fine just taking another blue card. Blue is probably the deepest color at common. We're kind of well set up to pursue blue-red, I think, as a lane. So Rootless is not powerful enough that it wants to pull me away from the blue-red archetype. But we'll see where we go from here. Pick 5. We've got a couple of nice uncommons. Carter is really great in black-red aggro. Cole is really great in white-red aggro. We are not in either of those color pairs at the moment, so I don't think I'm looking at either of these, but you could, at this point, pick 5, consider at least Cole as a signal that red-white's going to be open, and we are seeing some good red-white pieces here in Battlefield Raptor, Doomscar Oracle, Dwarven Reinforcements. So, you know, that is a deck that we could potentially pursue from here. But, you know, we've got a great blue common in Mistwalker. Fits with Basalt Ravager quite well. Fits in red-blue quite well. Nothing in green here to support Rootless U, so I don't think that's really a factor in this pick. So I think you either take Mistwalker and stay on the blue-red plan. If you're not going to do that, you could take a sort of a, I don't know if you consider it a riskier play, but like, you know, a more aggressive sort of draft pick here and take Cole and just maybe be ready to throw away Rootless U and Rune of Flight and just start drafting red-white. Basalt Ravager is going to be fine in that deck, providing some reach or getting a blocker out of the way. So I could see an argument for Cole, but I think personally I would just take Mistwalker and continue on our way towards being red-blue. Let's see what FoughtFoos decided to do. They take Carter Doomscourge. Very interesting. Okay. So, I mean, this card is solid. We don't have any black yet. So I think if I was going to take an aggro card, I would have taken Cole, just because I think it's more powerful. It's cheaper at 2 mana. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because we're seeing Battlefield Raptor in this pack. But I mean, for the same reasons, if you're excited about Carter, then this is a signal that black-red as an archetype is potentially open. The only caveat I will say there is that people are going to pick up cards like Feed the Serpent in black and, like, you know, Elderfang Disciple and some of the snow cards. Not Grim Draugr not a great example of that, but like black does have some controlling cards. So whereas, you know, white-red is straight-up aggro. Like, you're going to see, I think if you're assuming that this is a signal that, you know, either of these archetypes are open, I think you're going to see the aggro stuff because that's the only thing that white-red can do. Like, white is heavy aggressive, red is pretty well heavy aggressive, whereas black is kind of split between control / snow / you know, they've got some good aggro cards as well. But I do like Carter, so I think the power level is pretty close here. I think I would have gone with Cole if I was going to take one of these directions, but I probably honestly would have just taken Mistwalker. But maybe I'm playing it too safe. So Carter's the pick. On to pick 6. Okay, so now that we've picked Carter, I'm thinking that we're leaning into a more aggressive strategy, which I love. So right away, Run Amok is jumping out at me as a great pickup here. This is just a really, really difficult trick to play around. You're always doing damage to them, and, you know, you're killing a creature in the process. So I really like Run Amok here. If we were on the blue-red route, I think we'd just take Frostpyre Arcanist. It's pretty likely to be a 4-mana 2/5 with the cards that we would have had with Mistwalker, you know, Ravager, and now this. And I don't think it's too hard to get multiples of instants and sorceries, you know, and the, you know, the creature type is relevant, the body's relevant, but given what we've done here with Carter, I think we want to maximize that if we can. I like picking up Run Amok here. It allows us to pivot as well. If we do get cut out of black, I think red's got a couple more options in terms of like Runamuck's going to pair with blue if we end up back in that direction. It's going to pair with green really nicely with, cards like Rootless You that are big, want to trample over stuff. Whereas, Arcanist really only goes in blue-red, so I like Runamuck here to stay open. All right, so FoughtFoos goes for the Frostpire Arcanist. I agree with the pick, but I wish that we had stayed more on blue-red, and then I would really be fired up about this pick. I think, given where we're at now, I would want to take Runamuck, but I do like this card, so let's see where it goes. Pick 7, another Mistwalker for the blue-red deck. Maybe we're back on that plan. Nothing really jumping off the page in terms of black-red aggro, but we are seeing the white-red pieces coming across. So, had we taken Cole, for example, we could be picking up a Battlefield Raptor and be pretty excited about that. But I think here, given what we've got, I think that our blue and red cards are looking the strongest, and I think Mistwalker just works with everything we have. So I'd be on Mistwalker here pretty easily over everything else. And FoughtFoos agrees. All right, pick 8. So again, for the red-white deck, we could have had a Tormentor's Helm here. So we are seeing those pieces coming around, so maybe that's an indication that when you see Cole pick 5, those cards are going to be available. We could still take it here. Mistwalker would wear it pretty well. But yeah, this pick isn't super impactful, I don't think. Hard to say. We could take Masked Vandal if we wanted to potentially end up blue-green something or other. We've got one Snowland. This card is just solid. It's Changeling, which is useful for Frostpire Arcanist. Useful for Basalt Ravager. So I could see an argument for taking Vandal here. I don't think I'm on Jarl. It's a little bit slow. It's a little bit control-y. Just doesn't feel like we've been seeing any black. So I think this is between Tormentor's Helm and Vandal. I'd probably end up on the Helm, personally. Okay, FoughtFoos takes the Berserker. Solid card, 3-drop, 3/2 haste. Works with Carter, which is cool. It's going to fit in your blue-red deck just as a curve piece, but I think blue-red wants to be a bit more mid-range control-y, and this is not a giant, so... yeah, I don't hate that pick. All right, let's see how the pack rounds out. We wheel a Scorn Effigy out of, this is the original weak pack. Now, if we had kept in mind, again, that Spectral Steel was in that first pack, and seeing all this white-red that came around, and I'm not saying I would have seen this when I was drafting, because this stuff is hard to do, but interesting that this did wheel, so that Cole sort of signaling that deck might be open. We could have had a Battlefield Raptor, a Steel, a Tormentor's Helm, a Cole. We would have been off to the races with a red-white deck here. So it's just interesting to see how that might have come together. Scorn Effigy is a fine pickup here. If we really need a curve filler, we'll end up playing it. Most of the time, I don't end up playing Scorn Effigy, though. So if I was looking for an upside pick, I might actually just take Grim Draugr here. We just took Berserker, Breakneck Berserker. We've got Carter. There's still an out to be black-red, but we really have not been seeing black this pack, so I don't think it's correct to aggressively move in that direction, but I could see that as a little bit of upside here. Pick 10, kind of a bunch of nothing. We'll take Hoggy Mob. So our curve is a little bit concerning. We don't have really any 2-drops. And we're kind of loading up on 4s and 5s at the moment, but really nothing else to consider in this pack, so that makes sense to me. Coma's Faithful, sure. Yeah, it's really only playable. So, black-red could be a thing here. Ooh, a late Demonic Gifts. Okay. Like it over everything else here. So maybe black-red becomes an option. Ooh, pick 13 Battlefield Raptor. Oh, my. Yeah, the white-red deck is looking like the lane that was the most open here, but we take Pilfering Hawk, which is fine. I don't think it's going to make our deck because we don't have any Snowlands. So even now, I might take Battlefield Raptor because I think there's a 0% chance we're playing Hawk. Bunch of nothing. Oh, pick 15 Battlefield Raptor. So, possible main deck here. Still kind of looking like blue-red is the most likely, but we've picked up a couple of pieces for a black-red aggro deck. So we'll see what we open here. Graven Lore, 3 blue, snow instant, scry X the amount of snow, then draw 3. At instant speed, this is pretty nice. You know, again, like even just scrying 1 and then drawing 3 is pretty darn nice, especially late in the game if you've kind of stabilized with some early big dudes in blue-red. I don't mind that card. The ship is obviously sailed, I think, on red-white here, so I'm not sure that we're interested in Tormentor's Helm. We don't really have any white, so I don't think we're interested in Furia either. So I think this pick is between Frostbite to have something to do early and Graven Lore to have something to do late. And I think for where we're at, our curve is a little bit on the high side. I think we're just going to need to take care of early plays from our opponent. I think we just take Frostbite here. And, I mean, there's always, like, Behold the Multiverse and different ways like that to draw cards later. So I don't think we need to spend this pick on Graven Lore. I think we just take Frostbite here. FoughtFoos takes the Graven Lore. Okay, so now maybe leaning back into a blue control strategy. I can dig it. Pick 2. All right, so we've got a Narfi that we can't play. This card is really great, but Snow is not open, and we didn't pick up any Snowlands, so we're not going to be taking that here. We've got a Run Amok for the aggro deck. We've got an Augury Raven as just a solid blue card, and this is like a spot that I found myself in a bunch in Kaldheim Draft. Is like if I don't have a solid direction, it feels like I need to start taking cards like Augury Raven just to have cards that do something in my deck. Whereas, like, if we had leaned into, you know, an white-red aggro, black-red aggro a little bit harder, because we did have a Run Amok in the last pack that we could have taken, you know, then you could really lean into that strategy even harder here and have a more proactive synergistic deck. But I think at this point we just have to take Augury Raven as a card that we can play on Foretell on turn 2. It can get us ahead, it can attack and block and stuff, so I think we take the Raven here. But I just wanted to point out that I think there was an opportunity to go aggro. So yeah, Raven makes sense to me. All right, more Battlefield Raptors here. So I mean, obviously, like, especially early in the format, I don't think people thought this card was good, but I think a lot of people know that this card is great now. So depending on when this draft took place, you know, the format's going to look different now, and I'm not trying to be too critical here, because, like, I didn't know this card was good early on, but I am just trying to point out that, like, if you see this coming around late like we did in that last pack and coming around in pack 2, like, pick these up, put Gold Vein picks on them, and crush your opponent. It works super well. For our deck, still just feels like we're blue-red, so I think I'm taking... Well, there's Craven Hulk for the giant synergies, and there's Disdainful Stroke to, you know, counter some spells. There's Gold Vein pick to throw on an Augury Raven or a Mistwalker. I don't mind just taking pick here. We need stuff to do with our mana on the early turns. You can get Craven Hulks late. Bloodline Pretender is fine, I guess. We've got Mistwalker to work with it. We've got a couple giants. It's a bit slow, though. But I mean, once this becomes a 4/4, then you feel like you've done something. I think I'd take pick here, just to kind of lower our curve a little bit and give a little bit more punch to the flying creatures that we have. All right, and FoughtFoos takes Hulk, which makes sense to me. Again, relevant creature type, and I think blue-red's a really good archetype, and that really does feel like where we're headed towards here. Ooh, boy. So we're seeing some good green this pack. So this tends to happen in pack 2, is you're going to see a color that you didn't see in pack 1, because everybody in pack 1 to your right was cutting you out of it. So don't make the mistake of moving in to like a pick 4 Soros pack mate and being like, all right, we're moving into green, because you're going to get cut again in pack 3 by the people who are to your right and are playing green. So don't get fooled by that. I think we could take Tormentor's Helm here. We're not super aggressive, but again, just throwing an equipment on a flyer is pretty nice. There's just really nothing else that's happening here for us. if we're going to end up red-black, we still want the Helm, and we'll wheel Grimdrauger or Deathnell Berserker. So I'm on the Helm here. So FoughtFoos takes the Packmate. Okay. So my guess is that we're not going to end up playing it because we're going to get cut in Pack 3. It is a super powerful card. We're like in a spot where we don't have a super strong direction, but I think you let it go, and I think you lean into what you saw in Pack 1, which was blue-red and black-red and even white-red. I think that ship has sailed, but I think we saw red-based archetypes being open, so I think I would just take the Helm. Again, this deck did go 3-0, so what do I know? But that's my thought process there. Okay, so we got another look at Goldvein pick here. Immersturm Raider as a 2-drop. This card is totally fine. Late game, it's going to filter away a land for you. Early game, it's going to block a 3-2, or it's going to attack them. So I think I like taking Immersturm Raider here, or Goldvein pick. We don't have anything that we're really looking to splash, but pick does allow you to do that. So if we pick one up here, we can look to splash a powerful rare or something next pack. So could see an argument for either of these two cards. I think we're a little bit low on creatures that we actually actively want to play. We're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish if we end up blue-red. Excuse me. So I think I'm on Raider for that reason. We need 2s and we need creatures. Interesting. FoughtFoos goes for the Vengeful Reaper. Card's great. Foretells. It's got haste. Tangles with anything. It's got flying. It feels to me like we're getting to the point where we need to pick a direction, and I don't think that this card leaves us open enough to take it here. Whereas like a card like Demon Bolt could go in black-red, could go in blue-red, could go in any deck, control, aggro, whatever. This card really wants to be in the black-red aggro deck, and to me, I don't think we've seen enough to know that we're in that deck. If we decide to go black-red, we're dropping... I mean, Hawk doesn't count because we're not playing it anyways, but we're dropping Rune, Mistwalker, Raven, Arcanist, Gravenlore. We're dropping 5 picks. And if we go blue-red, now, we're dropping Reaper, Gifts, Carter. So, we're dropping a lot of black cards. Whereas if we take Raider, it's going to go in both decks. So we're not going to be in a spot where we're, like, running short on playables. I think those are the reasons why I chose Raider. But Reaper, obviously good. I just think that we need to zero in on a strategy here. So maybe this is the last straw where we're like, okay, now we're going black-red. Let's see what's on 6. Pick 6. Another Helm for the aggressive deck. Another Mistwalker for the control deck. So we're still kind of riding the line here. Buying the monster for the control deck. We don't have any removal yet. So, except for Basalt Ravager. So maybe we need to take Bind here. But, again, we just sort of picked up a black card to go into black-red. So this is where taking a card like Frostbite earlier in this pack would open us up to choices. But, now it feels like, man, maybe we just need to take Bind the Monster, which almost doesn't work with anything that we've got going on, but it's interaction, and we kind of need that at this point. So what are we taking here? I think I'm still on Mistwalker. I still think our blue-red deck looks stronger to me. But if we're going to take a black-red aggro card, I think I would take Tormentor's Helm. And FoughtFoos agrees, takes Mistwalker. All right. Pick 7, another look at Helm. So this must have been early in the format when people weren't drafting equipment, because these cards are hard to come across now. But if you get multiples of Helm, it's actually really great. Your creature has 2 of these. It's dealing 2 damage to your opponent every time they block it. It's +2/+2. Like it's a real thing. Mists, I think, is probably just a pick here. We need removal. This is a fine way to interact with your opponent. If you're attacking them in the air, these types of cards tend to do okay. It's not premium, but I think we just take it here. Yep, makes sense to me. And pick 8, Narfi comes back, which is weird because we haven't been seeing the Snowlands, which means somebody's taking them, but nobody took Narfi. We're not going to take it here. We do not have the support for it. Bunch of black, which is interesting. I think I would take way down here. Again, we need removal, and if we do end up playing black, this is a reasonable way to interact. Okay, FoughtFoos takes Narfi. Maybe just to fill out the collection, but there's no way it's making our deck here, in my opinion. Pick 9, raise the Draugr. I could see an argument for Disdainful Stroke. I think raise is pretty good in aggro decks, but to me, if we were going to be aggro by now, we would have a bunch of 2-drops, and we just don't. So I think we are kind of in a spot where we have to be blue-red. And I would take Disdainful Stroke. I think this card is playable. People are foretelling things. You can counter them. I think you play one of these more often than not. I would take it here. And here, Kennel Master as an aggro card is fine. I would take Run Amok here, I think, for the same reasons. I think this card is amazing in your aggro deck. And I still think we're most likely going to be blue-red, so I would want it, again, just to hedge. I think the chances that we end up blue-black are the lowest. I think there's a chance we end up blue-red. I think there's a chance we end up black-red, which means red is kind of our pivot color, right? So if I can take a red card at any point, that card's going to be more likely to make the deck. So I think I'd be on Run Amok here. Pack rounds out, pick up a Starnheim Courser. I don't know if this might have just been kind of a like maybe ran out of time or something. I think raise is after having taken one, I would just take the second one because I do think it's a good card, and Black Red Berserker is a good deck, so I would take raise here. Another late Raptor. Yeah, Draugr makes sense. Still though, I might take Tormentor's Helm. I think equipment is pretty important in the aggro decks, but we also might be in a spot where we're pretty creature light if we end up black red, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so I mean you're needing creatures pretty bad. So yeah, Draugr makes sense to me. Okay. On to the last pack. So again, still towing the line between black red, blue red. We'll see what happens here. We open a mythic Planeswalker. This card's excellent. But we're not in a spot where we can splash. We've got one fixing land here. So I don't think that's going to work for us, unfortunately. Bunch of sweet snow stuff here. Sfella, Avalanche Color that we can't play because snow is just not open this draft, unfortunately. So I think you just take... I think you might just take Tuskeri Firewalker here. For the same reason I said before, it's just like taking more red cards makes us more likely to end up playing them. So I think I'd take Firewalker here. If I wasn't taking Firewalker, I would take Mistwalker. Jarl is fine, but I think we just want to make sure that we get there on playables. I would take the Firewalker here. FoughtFoos takes Kaya. All right. Well, I mean, if you want the gems, I would take it. I just don't see how we're casting it. But I guess if we end up with a few duels or like another Shimmerdrift Veil, we could potentially do it. But at the moment, we don't have the fixing for it. So, I mean, at this point, if you're taking Kaya here, I think you're saying we're going to be a control / mid-range deck. We're going to drop the aggro plan. We're going to try and find some fixing and try and splash this Kaya. So we're going to be either blue-red splashing black and white, or we're going to be black-blue splashing white, which kind of hamstrings you're going to have to drop a lot of your picks in order to do that, I think. So, but that's what we took here. So let's see what happens next. And we've got a Bind the Monster, which I think we're in the market for because we need removal. Another Firewalker is also fine, and the rest of the pack doesn't really fit for us. So I think I would take Bind here to just shore up our interaction game. It's not looking like we're gonna play Kaya. Our blue is looking pretty solid, though. Double Mistwalker, Raven, Graven Lore. We're probably not going to get the full value out of Arcanist, but that's okay. It's still a good body. Yeah, I think you take Bind here. Bound in Gold. Interesting. So maybe a concession to wanting to play Kaya. Maybe we're switching into white here. I just don't think we have the fixing to do the 5-color thing. But again, this deck did go 3-0, so we'll see. We'll see what the final product looks like. So now, you could consider taking a dual land here if you want to play Kaya and Bound in Gold, which are two very, very good white cards. If we get lucky and just see 3 or 4 dual lands in a row, we could just take them all and try to make a 5-color pile work. There's a Sot coming. Not a card I'm super high on, but in the blue-red deck can be pretty sweet. If we had a Disdainful Stroke as well, you could hold up both. It holds up nicely with Graven Lore. So if you've got a lot of instants, maybe a Demon Bolt or something comes around this pack, this can work. Other than that, not a ton going on in this pack. Could see an argument for Dwarven Reinforcements as well, just to have another creature in the deck that this blocks 2 things. A lot of 3/2s that get punished by this. But I mean, having picked up Kaya and Bound in Gold, maybe we just go for it. Maybe we just snap up the dual land and see if we can get enough of them to splash white. FoughtFoos picks up a Way Down here. So, a card that works in the red-black deck. I was a fan of taking it in a previous pack, so I can definitely see rocking it here. Again, I think I would take a red card. I still think red is what's sort of holding this whole thing together. I think between Reinforcements and Way Down, they're both doing similar, or they're both at a similar power level for the red-black aggro deck. And, we need creatures pretty badly in either one of our builds. I think Reinforcements fits just a little bit better, but I do like Way Down as a way to interact. And it does go in the blue-black control. I mean, there's still an option of being blue-black control splashing white for Kaya and Bound in Gold. So that does kind of make sense to me there. Gives us reason to want to play Pilfering Hawk and just trade it off or something. Scoring after G, just trade it off early so that we can use Bound in Gold. So FoughtFoos picks up Bound in Gold here. Pick 5. All right, another Bound in Gold. A bunch of medium black cards and a Scorn Effigy. So, again, the splashing is going to be tough, but I could see picking up Bound and, moving into Esper control. Draugr Recruiter's actually been a little bit better than I thought it would be. The opponent really wants to block this, so you get to trade with one of their creatures, and then you get to return something to your hand. It's slow, it's mana intensive, but I think it fits the deck. I could also just see taking Disciple here to have a 2-drop play. It's really good with Way Down, and the fact that you can chump it or chump with it or whatever, get it into your graveyard, and it's already gotten a card out of their hand. Yeah, I think we need 2 mana plays. I think I'm on Disciple here. Okay, FoughtFoos agrees. Nice, love it, love that pick. Trickster got Heist. So we don't have quite enough early stuff. I think we take another Disciple here, try to wheel the Heist. Maybe we play it and give people our Disciples. I think I would just take the safe 2-drop. When I'm in a spot like this where I'm concerned about, having enough playables or the curve being a little bit on the high side. We got a lot of 4-drops. We're not sure what colors we are. I just want to take early plays, do things on turn 2. So I'm taking another Disciple here. Okay, so FoughtFoos takes Trickster God. So if we wheel Disciple, that's great. These 2 cards work super well together. I just think we're more likely to wheel the Heist, and if we don't wheel the Disciple, there's a chance we don't get to play the Heist. If we take the Disciple and we don't wheel the Heist, we still play Disciple, so we don't lose a pick here. But this is a bit more aggressive take, I guess, is to take this card and be like, the upside is there. We don't want somebody just taking this for their vault progress or whatever, and we don't get to put it in our deck, whereas people maybe don't care about this card. So it's a bit riskier, which can definitely pay off. We'll see what happens. Pick 7. Ooh, yeah. All right, so we get a late Turgrid's Shadow. This card's super powerful. Slam that over everything else in this pack, I think. And looks like we're blue-black. We're not going to have enough snow to make Narfi work, but it's still is, you know, a castable card for us. We have a couple of changelings that benefit from it. So I don't know if it's making our deck for sure, but we're definitely taking Shadow here. Yeah, nice. All right. Another Disciple or an Augury Raven. For the same reasons as before, I think we just take Disciple. We picked up Trickster God's Heist, which really wants it. We need 2-drop plays. We need early creatures. Black looking kind of open at the end of this pack as well. So I'm taking Disciple here over Raven. I didn't even mention Raven. Maybe I should have. We've got a lot of 4s. I don't think we're playing these Dogged Pursuits, but we've already got our top end, I think, figured out. For me, I just don't think Raven's a super important card, and I would take Disciple as an early play. Even in my control decks, I want my 2-drop category to be longer than the other ones, you know? So I would take Disciple here. But maybe we're counting on wheeling that other one. Okay, we've got a raise already. I think we just take Bind here. We still need removal. So I think Bind makes sense. Jarl, I guess that is removal. And it's a creature. If we'd taken the second Disciple, it would be even better. This card's great with Disciple. All right, yeah, you know what? I like this pick. I like this pick better than Bind. It's a creature and it interacts. I like this pick. Yeah. All right, let's see how this draft rounds out. Pick up an Intruder. I think that's going to make our deck. It's good with Jarl. Mist. Yep. Well, we could have taken Rune Crown, actually. Find our Rune of Flight. That's probably better than Mists. This is card advantage. Equipment is really good. We do have a lot of flyers already, but the fact that this effectively draws you a card when it comes into play, you know, can pick up, you know, whatever the last creature standing is. I think these games are going to get pretty grindy. I could see an argument for Runed Crown there. Raven form is fine. Yeah, we need interaction, need ways to get rid of things. So sure. Score an effigy. All right. Didn't wheel that Disciple for whatever that's worth. Okay, so let's have a look at the final build here. So ended up with 4 2-drops, and again, if we had taken more 2s more aggressively, Disciples. For example, we wouldn't have to play this Hawk, which we only have 1 snow source to actually activate it. So that's a little bit concerning, but we need 2-drop plays, so I do like putting it in the deck. And then, you know, some solid 3s here. Love Mistwalkers. Scorn Effigies kind of count as 2s, so it makes sense to include them here. And I think I would try to find something other than Dogged Pursuit. Like a Raise would be fine. Just getting back, you know, a Mistwalker and something else would often be a play you could make with Raise because of the Changeling considerations. You've got you've got multiple birds. You've got a couple of Berserkers here. So, you know, there's usually a path to getting back 2 things. So I think I would look to play Raise. I think I would look to play Rune as well, just to have something to do early. So maybe that would mean, you know, cutting Dogged Pursuit and, yeah, maybe even the Hawk, you know. But that's about all I can see. So there's really interesting, and I know this video is getting a little bit long, but I think this draft is really interesting. We could have ended up blue-red. We could have ended up white-red aggro at some certain points. We could have ended up black-red. We could have, and then finally we ended up black-blue, which is a red that I, you know, didn't anticipate. But so these drafts can be super tough to navigate, and you know, there's not really like one strategy that works. You're just kind of looking at what cards you have, what works with the cards you have, what could work with the cards you have. So, you know, kudos to our friend FoughtFoos for navigating this draft and posting a 3-0 record. And yeah, I would just say, like, one of the big takeaways, or one of the big things that I noticed, and maybe is a takeaway, again, deck went 3-0, so what can I say? But one big takeaway would be I think just looking at the opportunity cost of taking certain picks and how many cards you would have to not play essentially in order to include those cards in your deck. Like we didn't end up really in red, but there was a lot of chances to be in red. We ended up, not playing Basalt Ravager, Craven Hulk. Some of these cards that we spent high picks on, like Carter, Rune of Flight, we didn't, well, I think we should have played Rune of Flight, but, these cards, we don't get to play because we made different decisions. So, but I think, this deck ended up being pretty solid and ended up trophying. So, love it. Thank you so much for submitting. Thanks everybody for watching. If you would like to submit a draft log of your own, please do so in the comments. 17 lands is a great way to do that. There's a few others that do it as well. And I'd be happy to review it on this channel. Please click like if you enjoyed this video, and make sure to hit subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. Thanks again for watching. See you guys next time.